Well, relationships work, whether it's a marriage or it's a friendship or it's a business relationship, it takes work.
It takes work.
Yeah.
It's solid work. One of my favorite words to use. You got to put in the work.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Jonathan Oakes, Bailey Building. Welcome to Faith and Foundations. Today we have a special guest, a fellow brother, a fellow contractor, and a great friend. His name's Edward Farentino, but everybody calls him Cicc, but I'll let him introduce himself and tell you about himself. So what's up, man?
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Pretty good, man.
Good.
Good to have you on here.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're the first person that I've had on that is, I wouldn't say you're my competition, but you're my competition. We're, both Christians and,
Yes,
we've been around each other a lot, but we really don't know each other very well. So we're going to take this time to get to know each other a little bit more and let everybody see it. So if you don't mind, just tell us about yourself and, what you do. And
All right. Well, my name's Edward Farentino, so I'm a junior. My grandmother didn't want juniors, so when people started calling me Cicc, she started calling me Cicc, and that was my name. So
really,
and there's a little bit more to how that came about, but to the point to where I was in kindergarten and didn't know my name was Eddie, and didn't answer roll call, and so that's when I found out I was in kindergarten that I found out my name wasn't Eddie. Or wasn't Cicc.
Really?
That was the only thing I had been called my entire life.
So where did the nickname Cicc come from?
Cheech and Chong. So again, my grandmother didn't want juniors. So my grandfather was Edwin.
Okay.
My dad's Edward.
Okay.
No junior. Then my dad had to have the junior. So when my dad's cousins rubbed my mom's belly, they said, "When's the little Cicc going to be born?" All of a sudden, Auntie Elaine is saying Cicc, and then it just blows up, and that's my name. I come out Cicc. They're not allowed to put it on a birth certificate.
Yeah.
So, and then, then the name's fun, Cheech and Chong, but I'm Italian, last name Farentino, and had an opportunity to work for another builder at one point, and Dominic was a hardcore Italian, and he didn't like the spelling of Cicc, like Cheech and Chong. So he told me that I had to spell it the Italian way. So at about 26 years old, I went through a name change and went from Ceech to Cicc.
Really?
Which is the Italian word for Frank, and which has nothing to do with Edward, but that's the Italian spelling. And then I had to go to his house and watch a lot of Godfather movies, where it would pop up on the screen. He'd say, "See, yeah, that's Francesco, actually." But so
really?
That's where the name comes from. And he just told me that I needed to have a strong pride in my Italian heritage, and that I shouldn't spell it any other way other than keeping it Italian. So,
that is very interesting.
So, and he wouldn't sign any of my releases to pay anybody because he refused to acknowledge the other spelling.
Right.
Yeah, he was a character.
The other one's Ceek, right? Or no, Cheech.
Yeah, that's the Cheech and Chong version. Yeah. So, and it's unique. Ain't nobody else running around. I get called all sorts of names, so I get thick skin. So sometimes it's Cicc. It's fun to go to the building department because some of the people haven't met me yet, and they won't say my first name. They struggle with the Farentino, but they won't even try the first name. And I tease them right off the bat. You didn't want to try that name, did you? Because it doesn't come up. It comes up with that saying. And even the computer system won't attempt to say it. It spells it. So it'll say people's names, but it will only spell mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I guess because there's no H there, so it's hard.
It really throws it off. And when AI does say it, it calls me Kick. Hey, Kick, how you doing? Whatever. It's good. I get called Cicc a lot.
That's cool.
It's great. I know they're talking to me. What happens if I go to a doctor's appointment and they call Edward, it takes about 2 or 3 calls
For you to figure it
for
out.
me to realize, oh, that's
that's
me.
me.
That's me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it does. It throws me off a little bit. I use that word a lot, but you know, just to be called it. And then there's certain people through my life, you know. So in high school and middle school, they weren't. I went to Blessed Trinity. So 6, 7.
So you were born and raised here?
No, actually, we moved here in '84 from St. Pete, Clearwater area, more Clearwater. And my dad came up here to build some condos for George Steinbrenner. And so we came up here. My dad was the superintendent on the job. His uncle was the contractor on the job. So that's what brought us up here. Paddock Mall still had construction dust in it. I think it was finished in '82. But I mean, it was still fairly new. Not everybody was opened up in there. 200 was not what 200 is today.
I wasn't even born, bro.
Yeah. So I've been here since I was 12. Left a couple times, come back. So
yeah.
But that's really how we wound up in Ocala. Parents put me into Blessed Trinity, and that's just kind of like where my faith began. You know, going to a Christian school, having religion as part of the curriculum.
Yeah.
Being a Catholic, you don't really get an opportunity to do a lot of Bible study, if you will.
Right.
At least it wasn't ever really presented like it was in some of the other faiths that I've been able to you know, witness.
Right.
And so with that, being able to have a religious class and have that kind of being able to go through that and read the Bible a little bit really held an impact on me.
Yeah.
So just, and I wasn't an easy kid. Diagnosed with some things that my parents refused to accept diagnosis on. Just said, you got to deal with him differently. They learned how to deal with me differently. So, you know, just really, you know, I would have been at the beginning of this medication crisis that we're in. And they just said he just learns differently.
Right.
You know? Well, he won't sit still. Well, put a rag in his hand and tell him to clean a window. You know, he won't clean the window and he'll go sit down, you know, or just things like that. But things that the regular school systems aren't built to handle.
Yeah.
And so my parents just chose to find a school. We had just moved up here. So they just found a school that was going to have small classroom sizes with teachers that had the ability to, you know, have small classes and deal with a problem child.
Yeah, more hands-on.
More hands-on. Oh, a lot hands-on.
Yeah.
A lot hands-on, especially principal.
The discipline.
Principal had, they still had permission back then.
Yeah. I mean, whenever I was in elementary school, our principal, he had a wooden paddle. He actually had a heater that he would put on there, and it had holes in it, a bunch of holes in it. And he would say those holes were to create less resistance so he could pop you harder.
Yep.
I mean, but, you know, I mean, you look back at that day and age and this day and age, you know, kids these days, you know, they lack that discipline, you know. I mean, my children are, you know, I see the problems in them, but they're also amazing kids. You know, everywhere you go, everybody's like, you know, oh, your kids are amazing. They're amazing. They're amazing. And it's like, yes, they are amazing, but I see the problems, you know, but we disciplined them. Yeah. You know, we didn't let them just walk all over us. I mean, when our kids were, you know, in shooting elementary school, they were making their own breakfast, you know, and folding their own clothes and doing their laundry, you know. I mean, if you don't make kids do that stuff, if you don't raise them that type of way, if you don't give them some type of structure, they will go buck wild. Yeah. You know? And I mean, my parents, I was, you know, obviously I was raised by my parents, but I was with my grandparents a lot too. And, you know, the Bailey, behind the Bailey, my grandfather. And my grandfather, buddy, he had no hesitation with yanking off his belt. He would yank that sucker off and just started swinging it. Didn't care where he hit you, the back of the legs, the back of the head. It didn't matter. There's a story I tell all the time. Whenever I was in third grade, I think, our house caught on fire. We had dryer lint before the dryer lint catches. and the dryer lint got backed up behind the dryer. My mom left the dryer on, came to pick us up from school, and then when we came home, house was on fire. So we stayed with my grandparents for, I think it was a little over a year. But me and my brother were, and one of our friends was playing video games, and we were all sitting on the ground, you know, right at the TV screen playing the video game, and our buddy was playing the video game. And me and my brother had done something. I don't know what we had done. We did something. We knew we were going to get in trouble. We heard Pawpaw's truck pull in, and it was an old Dodge, and you could hear it pull into the driveway, and it squeaked all the time. The man was legally blind in one eye and half blind in the other, so he always was running off the road and hitting stuff. Shouldn't be driving, but you could hear it pulling in, and the minute he pulled in, we just kind of eased away, and our buddy was still sitting there playing the games. He come walking in the house, and the belt was already off. And just hitting him, Mr. Bailey, what did I do?
That's great.
It was funny.
That's great.
It was funny, but yeah, man. I mean, it's good that they did that then. I mean, this day and age, there's no way.
No. But you know what kids are looking for, and we don't need that necessarily. It's just that consistency.
Yeah.
You know, and I see a lot of times, and we'll get into some of my history of what I did when I wasn't in construction. Kids want structure.
Mm-hmm.
They'll fight it, but they'll cave into it once they realize that structure is not going to cave in on them.
Right.
You know, and a lot of kids wind up having that. You know, the structure of their lives have really never not been caved in on them. And that's where that discipline comes in. And my daughters are 32 and 30. If I missed your ages, I'm sorry. I'm calculating a little quick right here. But Morgan and Kelsey, and I spanked Morgan twice.
Yeah.
So as a parent, when I'm getting it handed to me and my parents are, you know, slobber crying as they're, you know, disciplining me, saying this hurts me more than it does you. Well, 2 times. And I said, I'm not getting hurt like this no more.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't, you know, it really was too much. So I made a decision that, you know, I would contain myself and not do that, and I would find a better way to discipline.
Yeah.
And I did. Now the other side of it is that my daughters lived mainly with their mom and stepdad, and they were more raised by them. But when they were with me, and there was any acting out or anything like that, I never went to that. And I don't think Julie or John ever really had to discipline like that either. They're pretty much good girls, you know.
Yeah.
But every now and then. But my younger daughter, Kelsey, about 5 years old, did something. Bring her into the room, you know, let her go in there, calm down for whatever the reason was. About 10 minutes, I go in there, sit her down on the bed, and I start talking to her, and she looks at me and she goes, "Can I just take the beating?"
Sure can.
Yeah. Like, yeah, you know, I mean, just like you're boring me to death, whatever. This is torture. So it was a great reinforcement. You know? So
yeah, I definitely don't like promote or encourage spankings. No. You know, I mean, I don't think that my son, I may have spanked him. I mean, obviously, you know, like a pop with the hand, with clothes on, but like, you know, taking them to the room, pulling out a belt.
Yep.
You know, the whole thing.
Yeah.
I think I may have only did that once or twice. And I'm the same way, man. Yeah. Like it eat me up.
And the kids don't get it. Like, you know, they're physically going through pain. They don't understand the emotional pain that it takes for a parent to forcefully discipline their kids.
Yeah.
So, God, right? How much pain does he go through when he has to discipline me?
Right.
Right? So I make that correlation. And, you know, he made a way for me that he didn't have to beat and whoop me anymore.
Right.
You know, and I didn't have to go through those pains.
Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah. So that's really, for me, where I've wound up with it. And when I really look at it, I want to be like Jesus. I want those things. And sometimes it's not easy.
It's not easy at all.
And then you're a parent, and you've got these children that you just want to tell them, I've made all the mistakes. Don't go do those mistakes. Mm-hmm. But we're children, right? And we got to go learn it for ourselves. Some kids apparently don't have to do that. I did.
Yeah.
My dad had a lot of lessons that he tried to save me from, and I had to go, experience for myself. And, you go through the same thing. I don't want anybody to have to go through what I went through. And then people go through a lot even worse. So,
right.
So.
Yeah, I've just recently, I found Christ, probably about, I think it's been about 3 years. Okay. I grew up in church, was born and raised with it. One of my best friends, Caleb Smith, his grandfather was a pastor, and we went to church all the time. I was in church every Sunday, every Wednesday. I was at that place all the time, but I wasn't there. You know what I mean? I was there, but I wasn't there. And then, I came away from faith, didn't really know God. I was baptized when I was young, but I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was committing myself to. I didn't know what I was professing, nothing. So it wasn't until I was a grown man, until I started meeting people like Jeremiah.
Yeah.
Jeremiah to me he is my best friend. And I feel like God put him in my life, not just to be a mentor, but to, I look at him as, like, when I see Jeremiah, I see Jesus, I see him in him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I even said this to him every time that he does something. It's praise God. Yeah. But he means it,
yes.
Genuinely means it. And, for him being around my life, it opened my eyes to a lot of things. And then one day God just stepped in and was like, hey, I'm here, and, I found him. And man, ever since then, my life has been completely different. It's not easy, being a Christian, following Christ is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but it's easy. You just got to open the book and you got to have a relationship with him. He guides us. He's guided us together.
Exactly.
Here we are. He's, guiding you into all kinds of different things. It's, what you're doing with, with this community and in our community, I think is so good. There's one thing that this next generation's lacking, is, not just a structure, but, nobody's wanting to go into the trades. Nobody's wanting to get their hands dirty. This new era with TikTok and Instagram, everybody wants to be the next viral star, and they want to make a bunch of money with doing nothing. And buddy, here before too long, guys that know how to build things, like actually use their hands, they're gonna become very, very valuable.
And it's not too far,
So, no, it's really close.
So I'll tell you, like 2008. So I've got so much respect for guys like you that can throw on the tool belt and go out there and throw up a wall and do it. Because when 2008, 2007 happened, I'm not that guy in the field. All of my life was in the books, in the office. And
see, and I'm not that guy.
Right. So it's just like, wow, like I was in trouble. I went to make donuts. That's how I survived.
Really?
Yes. That's
so
how
during the recession.
During the recession, I went and at 4:00 in the morning, time to make the donuts.
Where at?
Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh, really?
On the boulevard.
That's cool.
Yeah, so Terry Niemiller was the owner. We were doing all of his remodels. We went to Dunkin' University to learn how to do remodels the Dunkin' way, so we were certified Dunkin' builder.
Right.
The recession was just popping off, and we had just finished doing a couple of projects for him, and he was dropping off the last check. And I jokingly say, hey, man, why don't you give me a job? For years, we had talked about possibly buying the franchise from him. And I just kept saying, I don't want to make donuts. So I jokingly say, hey, man, when are you going to give me a job? And, he's with a face like yours, I'll have to put you on the overnight shift. So
thanks, man.
Yeah, man, great. But then several people have made comments like that. I guess it's because they know I can handle it.
Yeah.
I'm a good looking guy.
Yeah, you're handsome.
Thank you.
Yeah. People would be buying you, not donuts.
Yeah. Shh. So I make that comment to him, and about 2 weeks go by, and my dad comes into my office and he closes the door. And you got to understand, he never closes my door. Yeah. Because if he had something important that he needed to come yell at me, if he had something important that he needed to come talk to me about, he wanted to make sure everybody knew what he was talking about and that there was no buffer. So when he came in and closed the door, I knew something was up immediately. And he told me that we were going to have to, that I was going to have to go let our receptionist go. Mm-hmm. So I really quick do the math. Well, wait a minute. If Rachel's not answering phones, who's answering phones? Well, you're going to have to. Well, no, that ain't really going to work out for us too well. No. And I said, what we'll do is I'll reach out to Terry. I'll go get an overnight job seriously. I'll make enough money where I can survive. Keep Rachel doing her thing because she's the one that runs everything. I don't know her job. Yeah. You got teammates that do certain things, and it was her that was not, not that I didn't want to do it. It's just that there was so much from the first time that phone call comes in till we go out on the sales call that has to happen, and Rachel made all those things happen. Not to mention after I came back from the sales call, Rachel made a lot of things happen. So to lose her was going to be really, really detrimental. So I said, look, I can do this, what are we talking, 6 months? 6 months, we'll be fine. And then I came in one day to my dad answering phones, about 7-8 months later. Yeah. And he's in there answering phones. And that definitely wasn't going to work out. So that was pretty much, we nose crashed at that point. Just everything leveraged, not doing the things that we were taught by my dad's uncle and by my grandfather, and purchases that you make and the way that you spend money. And so that's really, really what wound up happening. So I called up Terry and I said, hey, man, I need that nighttime job. And he says, I thought we were joking. And I said, well, it's not a joke today, buddy. I said, then whatever you can figure out for me, that would be great. And he, deep breath, I ain't got anything. Yeah. 4 hours later, he called me and he says, hey, can you be here tonight at 10 o'clock? Somebody just walked out on me.
God.
So I went to Dunkin' Donuts, started learning how I started out decorating donuts. Man, I start at the bottom. Everywhere, I start at the bottom.
Yeah, that sounds fun, though.
Oh, it was a blast. I mean, you're painting donuts. And we're talking racks and racks and, then the fryers are back there and they're making the donuts. And, it's like, man, I want to learn how to do that. Yeah. And again, that was one of the things that if we were going to buy it, I was going to have to make the donuts. So Terry taught me how to start making donuts. And then next thing you know, Terry's saying, hey, I'm tired of doing the schedule. Will you run the kitchen for me? This was like within a year or two. And, all of a sudden it's time to remodel again. 5 years go by. So I was not supposed to be at Dunkin' Donuts, but for 6 months.
Wow.
And I wound up there for about 5-6 yeyears.
Oh, wow.
And when I left, I was the general manager. And the only reason why I wound up leaving is because Terry sold. And, it was time to move on. And at that point, I went and I laid pavers for about a year and found out that, I was a little bit too old to be starting a new career laying pavers.
That's hard work, man.
Learned a lot about it, learned a lot about pickle juice, and cramping and all that stuff. But I did that for about a year and then went to work for a chiropractor for a little while. I became a licensed chiropractic physician's assistant and x-ray operator and did that for a while. So,
wow.
Part of my story is that Construction's in my DNA. My great-grandfather came over from Italy on a boat. He was a block mason. Helped build up New York. There's 7 children that he had, and almost every single one of them was in construction. My Aunt Mary Ann married a carpenter. So the whole family was construction. And then they moved down to the Pinellas County area, and my Uncle Lloyd and my grandfather Edwin, built up Pinellas County.
Wow.
And they're, really, the pillars of the community down there.
Yeah.
And my grandfather died when I was 6, so I didn't really ever get to know him. So I only know him through stories. But the stories were that he was a kind, giving, generous man, and that he just always gave to the community. And then that's what my dad did. My dad did what his father did. So that's kind of like when you start taking a look at everything. But construction, man, it gave my great-grandfather a good life. It gave my grandfather a good life. He had 5 kids. It supported 5 kids in their day. Houses were a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house in 1972 was $28,000 on a lot. I uncovered that recently going through some stuff as we were moving stuff around. I found that, and it just broke my heart.
Yeah.
I can't do a bathroom for that now.
No kidding.
I can't do I can, but it's a very small bathroom.
Yeah.
It's a half bath. Right? Yeah. So
sad to think that.
Is it not? So then it was my granddad and then my dad. And then, I just grew up around construction. So I knew things about how construction worked and, just all the legalities of it and all the things that, when my dad would come home with frustrations because the office is in the home, so you grow up with it. So I was bound and determined not to be in construction. Now I was going to go make my own way and go do my own thing.
Yeah.
And
here you are.
And here I am. I mean, and repeatedly, God told me that I was to build.
Yeah.
Just repeatedly, because everything that I can tell you that I went and did, he brought me back to construction. He brought me back to be an entrepreneur, even more than that. Just to be a businessman, go out and do good in the community. And, that's my dad gave us a good life.
Right.
And he was so involved in the community. Now, unlike my grandfather, where I didn't see it, I got to see it with my dad. And being involved in a church youth group and things like that, he was a smart guy too, because that's free child labor. And we did a lot of community with a heart projects and things like that. And a lot of kids really got exposed to construction through that. Some of my friends who just knew they weren't going to college and didn't want to work at Ryan's Steakhouse for the rest of their life, but that's what they were faced with. And
now you're speaking your age, Ryan's Steakhouse.
Yes, sir. Oh, I went to Forest High School on Fort King.
Yeah.
That's how old I am.
Yeah.
So some people don't even know that was Forest High School.
Right.
But really, he exposed a bunch of kids to the trades, and couple kids, one in particular, wound up saying, as he talked to my dad's head guy, Thomas, he says, he's paying you to do this? So I don't know if he realized he was volunteering, doing it for free, and that somebody was actually getting paid. But, he said that when Thomas said, yeah, man, this is what I get to do. And Thomas had such a passion for building and what he does. He's one of the best. And for Charlie to go to him and say these things wound up being, just very profound, because it changed his life.
Right.
Because then he realized, I don't have to go to college and I can make some money. And that's what he wound up doing. He wound up becoming a finish trim cabinet carpenter.
That's cool.
Yeah, so, he's dealing in 16th and 32nds of an inch.
Yeah.
Not like your rough framers, where are they at now? A half inch? Half inch, close enough? No. So very attention to detail, and he made a lot of money, in the construction trades.
Yeah. And
before it was cool. And so again, you guys that have that ability to go in there with your hands, I mean, it winds up being endless.
Yeah.
And it's really, really, of appreciation.
Well, see, I appreciate the people in the office. I've had to do all of it. I mean, I have to do it right now. I mean, I'm so blessed to have a wife that helps me with all the paperwork and stuff, but I despise it.
Yeah.
I despise it. I would much rather put my earbuds in and throw on my tool belt and be on top of a roof or on my hands and knees laying tile or pavers or installing cabinets, painting, anything else other than typing or pecking on a computer. I mean, I can find joy in it, and I don't mind doing estimates. I really like meeting people. I enjoy the sales side of it, but it's not really sales to me. It's, meeting somebody, learning about who they are as an individual, as a person, and then most of the stuff that we do, it's additions, remodels, we're dealing with, what's behind the wall, we've already got existing structures. Somebody's got this crazy idea and taking that idea and pulling it out of their head, putting it on a piece of paper and then bringing it to real life.
Yeah.
I get so much excitement out of that, but when it comes to the money, the paperwork, all that stuff, I really would just much rather give that to somebody else. I don't want nothing to do with it.
And I'm in that same boat. I mean, going out and meeting people, I'm a dot connector. So
that's a good analogy.
So as a kid, you get the activity books.
Yeah.
I guarantee you there was not a connect the dot not done in that book. Every one of them was done. Everything else I skipped.
Right.
And I love to connect dots. And that was given to me actually through Pastor Kim out at the prison.
Oh, wow.
She one day told me, "Well, you're just a dot connector." And I was like, same thing that you just did.
That's pretty good.
And then I realized, flashcards running through my head. And I've realized, my whole life, I've enjoyed connecting dots.
Yeah.
So, and that's what my job is.
Right.
That's what I'm really good at. Meeting people, gaining trust, and just however that winds up working out. I have no idea when I meet somebody where they're going to come into later on. But God's already put them in my life for a reason, and I'll figure it out much, much later, and I'll look back and I'll be like, "You're tricky." You're really tricky, because as we continue on today, I couldn't even really begin to write the book of the way that he works and the way that he's saved me from so much. I've had drug addiction problems. Part of having I hate calling it a disorder, because it's not a disorder for me, it's a disorder for everybody else.
Yeah.
And trying to medicate myself. So two drug rehabs, and God came into both those drug rehabs, put a man in my life that has not given up on me, Pastor Nate, and he was, wow. So my first drug rehab, my daughters were 1 and 2. My wife had enough. I was just doing horrible drugs. And I don't like to name those demons, but she had enough, and she told me go home. So I came back to Florida, and moved in with my parents. Grown man with kids, living with mommy and daddy, but I couldn't get off the dope.
Yeah.
And they thought that they were going to be able to help me, and realized that they couldn't. So they put me into a drug rehab. And while I was there, I met a man, and he checked me in, and he told me how my life was just in a cycle, and he gave me these couple of teachings and things like this about Jesus and God. And I'm thinking to myself, you're a counselor, none of this is supposed to be happening right now. Separation of state and whatever, that's how messed up I was.
Yeah.
This wasn't a state institution. So anyways, they get me into the drug rehab, and I stay there for a little while, and I learn everything that I need to learn. I'm able to go back out into the world. No, I wasn't. And it did not really work out that well for me.
Yeah.
But on my second visit to drug rehab, which happened after I was the facility administrator of a juvenile detention center and burned out and went back to the demons, I wound up in my second drug rehab, and there was this man that would come in and he would take us to church. His name was Pastor Nate, and we'd go to, at the time it was called Ocala Word of Faith. And he would pick us up, a group of us, and he would take us down there to the church and then bring us back. And he even helped a group of us when we got out of rehab start like a halfway house. That didn't end well. You don't put a bunch of fresh people out of drug rehab trying to do that, but we gave it our best shot.
Yeah.
So this man's just come in and out of my life. And one day I'm having dinner with him about 5 years ago. Time's flying, about 5 years ago. Actually having dinner with him, a good friend of mine is Ben Marciano, having dinner at Ben's house. So the time frame's going to be, Ben hadn't told anybody that he was running for mayor yet.
Right.
So this was just before he was making the announcements. We're having dinner with Pastor Nate. And he wants to tell Pastor Nate, because Pastor Nate had been huge in his life as well. And so he's telling Pastor Nate that, he's going to run for mayor. And Pastor Nate's overjoyed because this is Jesus working. These two guys, or these guys that have been through a lot, and whatever, his story is, whatever my story is, here we are sitting at this table, and all with the love of Jesus, all in. And he tells Ben, you're a great community leader, and we've been praying for this for you. And he goes, and Cheech, you're just an entrepreneur, and he goes, you've got to let that fire go. And so I just thought it was really neat, right? So I'm like, yeah, he's right, I'm an entrepreneur. And then his wife Ronnie looks at me and she goes, you're to write a book. I'm like, what? And he goes, yes, you're supposed to write a book. And I'm like, well, I'm not an author,
Yeah.
and like English is, not my subject at all.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'm speaking it today. But, I'm just like, no, I'm not supposed to write a book. And they're like, no, you're supposed to write a book. And some of these contracts and specifications that I write a lot of books.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so those are my books.
Yeah.
But they gave me a level of confidence. Pastor Nate, when I got into a bad time one time, put his arm around me and took me for a walk. And he says, Aborigine tribes, the father takes his son for a walk. I'm your spiritual father, and we're going to go for this walk. And there's times when you just need to go for a walk and just let everything go. And he started teaching me about those things of peace. So where I really want to tie this up is that one day I was going through, my dad's got a box of a bunch of documents in it. And I was going through it one day, just right after Pastor Nate was here and we had that dinner. And I opened it up and I found my intake papers from Marion Citrus from my very first rehab.
Oh, wow.
He was my intake.
No way.
No way.
Wow.
Nathaniel Dixon was signed on it.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, he got placed in my life at a point, and he kept coming into my life. And sometimes I wouldn't listen to him, or, I was off, but he never, ever gave up on me.
Yeah.
And I'm in a daily, he sends me my daily devotionals.
Wow. That speaks about his faith.
Oh,
God's using him so much.
The lessons that he's taught me, and he is my spiritual father. God, and like I said, God placed him up in my life at a point, and just the powerful words that I knew that they were coming from God through Pastor Nate, telling me, man, you're a businessman. Go out there and do your business. Because I'm working for the chiropractor at that time.
Yeah.
And I'm side gigging Farentino and Son.
Yeah.
Right? So my main source of income's, the chiropractic thing, but I'm just, so you get these handymen. I'm going to go off on a tangent. You get these handymen. And they come in and they go and they butcher somebody's house.
Yeah.
And they got robbed and they're just looking for some relief. And my heart just can't take that. So we kind of started out when I fired back up Farentino and Son. It was just kind of like if you could find us or hear about us and you had a horrible condition and nobody else would deal with it, the A-team.
That was you.
That was us, because that was kind of like where we were at that time, me and my partner, and it worked. And all of a sudden, it started working really good, and to the point to where the chiropractor wasn't sure if he needed to start charging me rent.
Yeah.
Because I was running a bit. When we started talking about my going full time to Farentino and Son, he was like, "Some of my patients, I'm pretty sure, are coming to see you."
Oh, wow.
But they were paying for chiropractic services, so who cares? So...
They're like, Cicc, come fix my problem.
Yeah.
Not my back.
Exactly. And I couldn't crack backs anyway.
Yeah.
But again, just kind of like one of those things that, I went to work for the chiropractor again. As I said, I was coming out. I didn't want to do pavers anymore. I needed something. We weren't quite yet back from 2000 from the recession, so I went and got licensed and I did those things, but I did 4 construction jobs for that doctor.
Yeah.
2 on his house and 2 on the new building that he bought.
Right.
So it's in me, it's in my DNA.
Oh, yeah.
Through the drug rehabs, you get clean and you decide that you can save the world. So that's how I got into juvenile justice.
Oh, wow.
I have to tie all this stuff in, brother. I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
no, you're good, man. I mean, this is amazing because I'm sitting here thinking about all this stuff. I can relate some of it with my life, you're talking about Pastor Nate and him being such a staple in your life and showing up. I mean, Jeremiah is that guy for me.
Yeah.
He would tell me the story all the time, and this just sunk into me this morning. I was, sitting up this morning doing paperwork at like 5 a.m. and mad about whatever and not wanting to do it. And I've been complaining to him a lot lately about my situation and things that I'm going through right now. And I just want to go back. I just want to go back to putting my tool belt on where it was me and a few friends and work. And Jeremiah always tells me this story about how, when he was coming up, he was building his business and, he would cry, why, God, why do you have me here? I'm a smart man. I could, go be a nurse, or I love flying airplanes. Put me back flying airplanes. Like, I want to go do that. But yet he stuck through it, And that sunk to me this morning. It's like, it's not about what we want to do.
Yeah.
It's not about what you want to do. It's about what he wants to do.
Exactly.
It's about his will for our lives. And if we can be a sacrifice for him in our lives to glorify him, that's what we're called to do every day. And man, I've understood that, but it didn't sink into me until this morning.
Yeah.
And hearing you say all this, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, because like I said, I'll dominate a conversation and that's part of my imposter syndrome as well. So I don't ever really want to do that. But this message that we're going to walk out of here today is going to be just wow.
Oh, yeah.
And I say that because that's him.
Amen.
He is wow.
Amen.
And so I came out of the drug rehabs, and this was my first one. So I come out of it, and I'm going to save the world. But first, I got to get a job. So I go to work at Singular Wireless. You do not put a person with ADHD inside a box, literally. and make him clock out to go to the bathroom. You just don't. It just didn't. Shortest job I think I ever had was Singular Wireless. And then I found a job opening at Marion Youth Development Center, which is out in Lowell in front of the men's correctional prison.
Right.
So I go out there, I get myself all dressed up in a suit. I go interview with the facility administrator. We're halfway through the interview and he goes, "Wait, you're not selling me insurance?" Like, "No, sir, I'm here for a job interview." He's like, "Nobody shows up dressed like that for this job, buddy." And I'm like, "Well, I need a job." But that's what I was taught.
Right.
You go into you want a job, you go in looking like you want a job.
I didn't get a job one time because I was dressed too nice.
Well, that's happened a couple of times as well. Yeah.
I went to Champion Pest Control one time. They had a position for pulling weeds. And this was during the recession. I had no job.
Yeah.
I needed a job. So I went there, had, shirt all nice and tucked in. The guy was like, "You even know how to work?" I'm like, "Seriously, man? Like, I'll work circles around you. Like, that's all I know is construction." I was like 19 at the time. It was crazy. It blows my mind that someone would judge you like that.
Yeah.
Like, you haven't even seen what I can do. And just because I'm clean cut and nice, like, you want me to come here with a tattoo on my face?
And then sometimes that's just intimidating too, to a certain level, right? Like, why would you want to hire somebody that's going to take my job? I don't know what the thought process in that is.
Right.
Yeah, it's really, really wild, right? Like, how do I overdress, So they hire me on. I'm this youth care worker, and anytime you get into something like that, this was a private company that ran facilities for the Department of Juvenile Justice. So we were a private contractor, and youth care workers. That was the bottom of the barrel. I think the janitor was considered higher on the hierarchy than a youth care worker 3. And that's where I started out at. And they would always bounce you from one area to another, right? And one dorm was like all the really great kids were in this dorm, and then this dorm not so good, and this dorm a little bit better than that dorm, but this was the problems.
Right.
Staff would quit if they got sent to that dorm.
Yeah.
Like, "You're not sending me, I'll go home for the day." So I'm going through it, and I try not to fail. I don't like failure, and so I'm on the ride home one day from work, and these kids just broke me. They broke me, and driving home, and I'm crying, and I'm like, "I'm done. I'm not doing this. I'm over. I've done everything I can, and it's just not going to work."
Yeah.
And just as loud as can be, "No, you're not. You haven't even tried. You haven't even begun." And so took a deep breath and I said, you're right. I haven't tried. So I got home that night. I didn't sleep. I got out the student manual and I read the student manual of what the kids were doing. And I decided that the only way that this was going to work is if I took command and control. And one of the issues was because I was a new staff, they would bounce me no matter what would happen. But I knew that if I had consistency and I had the same group of kids all the time, so that they knew what they were going to be getting every single time that I was there,
right.
That we would be okay. So I came in and I said, "Hey, listen, I can't do this dorm bouncing anymore. And you guys are going to have to put me in one dorm." And like both shift supervisors start laughing at me. Like, "That ain't going to happen," laugh. Yeah, sure. "Which dorm do you want?" And I said, "I want B4. And they said, "You're not going to B4." Like, that was the bad dorm. They were like, yeah, you got it. So, hey, man, we got a sucker, and he's going to go down there. And I came in that day, and I had taken the entire disciplinary system that they used, and I created my own subsystem from it. And went into the kids, and I said, "I'm going to walk around with my little clipboard right here, and if I say it to you once, a check. If I say it to you twice, a check. And at the end of the day, if you got too many checks, don't even worry about what's on your card that they're giving you, because I'm going to go off of this, and I'm going to fill out your little card at the end of the day."
Yeah.
And just like a token economy type situation. So a lot of pushback. But
Naturally.
But after 2 weeks, it died down because I came in and we, with the kids, got on my hands and knees and scrubbed their bathroom. Got in with the kids and started doing things to their dorm because I told them that the days of B4 being bad was over.
Right.
I brought in their counselor. And what I did, and I told the kids, when I walk through the door and you think Mr. Farentino is coming through the door, it's not Mr. Farentino coming through the door. It's Mr. Pete Zegers. That was the facility administrator. And you know, when the big dog walks in, everybody straightens up.
Yeah.
You know, so I was like, I'm Mr. Zegers. And whatever you say to me, I'm reporting directly to him.
Right.
And you're saying it to him. And that's what I started teaching the kids, is that you had to put on this face. And then we would get to the point with the counselor. This was so awesome that you needed the face of Jesus.
Right.
You know, because he was a pastor as well. And then he and I started working together. We had a horrible relationship in the beginning when I first started this. And then I showed up to go to kids' assessment meetings on my time.
Oh, wow.
I came in and I told you, you mess with me, I'm going to the person that can affect you.
Yeah.
And we went from that to we were winning every award for clean dorms. There was a competition for how fast showers could get. The kids and I developed a system, you know, that worked. And I mean, we were banging them out, done, cleaned up, sitting in the living room watching TV ahead of everybody else, to the point where Pete Zegers came down because he had to see for himself, because he's like, that's a totally different dorm. I keep saying a lot of I had 3 other staff members that bought in. I had that counselor that bought in. And we actually started getting staff that wanted to go to B4. I got promoted and moved down to Hastings, which is, I got to live in St. Augustine for a few years, and that was phenomenal.
That's cool.
But from Hastings, a lot happened there. But that was 2 years I got moved to Hastings, and a year later, I was approached to take 2 years. 2 years at Hastings, and then I was asked to move to Avon Park to become an assistant facility administrator. So it took me 5 years from the bottom to the second in command.
Oh, wow.
And through it, I was shift supervisors, I was a counselor, I was a staff development specialist. I created that position for myself, and then I went to Avon Park. And I got the Avon Park job not because I was anything other than somebody with a construction background.
Right.
Avon Park was a very special facility. It's on an Air Force base, and the kids live in base housing. And what our company sold to the Department of Juvenile Justice is that we could teach trades to kids. And they brought in HBI, Home Builders Institute, and they had a set of people down there, and they were trying to teach trades to kids. And then our company was trying to keep kids from escaping and doing the things that got them locked up in the first place.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of a conflict there between security staff and building staff, because security would write up a kid with a hammer in his hand. You can't learn to be a carpenter without a hammer.
Yeah.
Or a saw, or that's contraband, you know, just really stuff that wouldn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
So that's what they said is, you know, you've done really good and getting the training for our facility. We want you to go down there, and can you get everybody on the same page? Pete Zegers and I went down to Avon Park, and that's what we did. And we proved that we could teach trades to kids. So we had plumbing, electric, carpentry, landscaping. We were operating a cafeteria-style kitchen and then a bowling alley kitchen, as well as teaching kids how to run a bowling alley. And we had an auto detailing, again, and that's what we were teaching the kids. And,
wow.
And I mean...
This is all coming full circle, though.
Right? I can't make this up. This is my life.
This is God.
This is God. This is whenever I'm like, I'm not enough, like this is too much for me to bear, I'm not seeing a way out of this. I had my hands on the top of a police car once, and they were going through my pockets, and there was something that was in my pocket that should have put me away forever. And they didn't touch it. And they gave me a ride into town. So when I get grateful for God, that's a God moment. There's no other thing other than him saying, you could not go to prison. I couldn't let you go to prison. And I mean, and this is in Tennessee, brother. You know, this ain't the sunny, shine state of Florida. This was Tennessee, and what was in my pocket? Didn't learn. I didn't learn yet, and I didn't realize what he did for me that day. But I'm telling you, when I'm broke down, they didn't touch my pocket. They patted me down. How did they not?
Buddy, I got a story just like that too. I should have. There's a time where I should have went to jail because I was driving drunk and got pulled over and got asked to do a sobriety test. I was cocky and arrogant to the cop. He had all reasons to take me to jail, but instead, he drove me home.